Welcome to the Sexual Wellness Podcast, real-life conversations with industry experts on modern sexuality and how to live a happy, healthy, turned-on life. I'm your host, Laura Allen, founder of New Zealand's leading sexual wellness store and holistic sex, love, and life coach, passionately guiding women to expand their pleasure in and outside the bedroom. Welcome back, everybody, to the Sexual Wellness Podcast. I've got Stacey here again, of course. It's kind of like a bit of a dreary day in Auckland, and I'm feeling quite like subtle and sensitive and like intuitive and flowy and all of that buzz. So I'm excited for this podcast. And to see where the flow takes us. Before we dive in, I just want to let you know that I'm releasing finally my Juicy meditation pack. It's called Juicy, and it's just full of meditations that you're actually going to want to do. They're very feminine embodiment based. There's movement in there. There's all sorts of visualizations. There's breath work that's incorporated. And it'll just, there's a ton of resources in there. It's definitely my most accessible offering. So if you are interested in learning more about meditation and a meditation that's actually going to suit your body and suit your femininity, then definitely head over to my website. You'll see it there, and you can find me on Instagram as well. All the links are in all of the things, and you know how to find them. So I think actually meditation is probably going to be something that will come up in this episode as well, because today we're going to be talking about trust and how to establish a really deep sense of trust in a relationship. And I feel like it's such an important topic to really understand, because society and just the way that we're raised and just kind of how life tends to happen is we learn that we aren't really safe to be ourselves and to be expressed, and we don't actually understand how that affects our ability to establish that really deep connection and trust in a relationship. And, also there's like all of this like cheating, and like there's so many kind of almost like role modeled relationships out there that in the mainstream media that really have this underlying tone of jealousy, codependency, like I'll die without you kind of vibe. And I just kind of don't think that it's the way. But like establishing like rock solid foundation of trust where you just know with every cell in your body that you're safe, you're seen, and you can trust this person with your whole heart. That kind of love is the love where you can really expand and reach those like super altered states of orgasms and stuff. And it doesn't just have to be in a long-term relationship. I think I say this in every single one of my podcasts. Like these philosophies and modalities are relatable to any relationship dynamic. So the tools that we'll be talking about in this episode you can use in your like brand new relationships, no matter what the sort of future forecast of them is. Do you want to add anything to that little intro moment?
I probably just want to start off by saying like I hear you on the dreary day, and that I am like my period came 5 days early from the supermoon in Scorpio, and that never happens. It's like clockwork. It comes on day 28, and it was like 5 days early, and I was like, okay, that's happening for me right now. And also I've got like a severe UTI, and all of the signs are pointing to essentially not listening to my intuition, not honoring my boundaries, and not speaking my truth in the moment, even though I've got that niggling feeling. So this is like super on top for me right now.
So good. And the thing is when we aren't listening and when we aren't you know, speaking up for our boundaries, establishing that truth and that trust first and foremost with ourselves.
Yeah.
It'll ripple out into our relationships. Yeah. And then we get UTIs.
Yeah. Well, then it manifests into like physical sickness for me all of the time. That is my science for my body. Yeah. Or like freaking clockwork. Yeah. I get some kind of physical symptom.
Yeah, and like I think that is the science. I mean, of course, the thing that I find fascinating about science is that it's ever evolving. You know, we used to think the world was flat. Like nutritional science has been so experimental. Like we actually don't really fucking know, really. I mean, like it knows a lot. Science knows a lot. I'm not disregarding the whole industry, but like at the end of the day, you know.
You know what's up.
You know what's up with your own body.
Yeah, exactly.
So just like kind of empowering yourself to trust your experience and trust the results that you experience in your own kind of life. And drawing a hypothesis from there. That is such an intellectual word.
I'm
real smart today.
And another point to the speaking of the truth and kind of elaborating on what you were saying before, I think that a lot of the time we're fearful of sharing our truth because of either fear of hurting someone else's feelings or fear of being too much or essentially fear of other people's judgments of us. And those are like the underlying kind of like shadows of why we're not expressing ourselves. For me, mostly those are the kind of points behind it. And really understanding that like trust within yourself is like paramount before ever being able to establish trust with another person. So
before we dive into that, I want to just unpack what speaking your truth even means. Like, what does that mean? It's like we hear it all the time. There's like Instagram quotes about it, but like,
what is it?
What is that? What is that?
What is that? Yeah. Okay. So for me, speaking my truth is, well, I can navigate when I've not spoken my truth because of what's happened to my body. So
and this is an important note, actually, because we're always learning. It's not like, oh, I know how to speak my truth now, and you just own it for the rest of your life. This is something that you're kind of mindful of all of the time.
I've got a really actually good example of an experience where it took me time, but I eventually got there with speaking my truth. So I had an incident at work whereby there was just a really kind of like, there was a man there that basically was like quite creepy towards me every day. And I kind of just was like brushed it off, and I was just like, oh, that's just so-and-so. He's just, that's just what he's like, you know. And it progressively got more and more uncomfortable for me in the workplace. And then it reached a point where he'd made a comment to me that was just really inappropriate. He referenced Harvey Weinstein, and it was just really off and wrong. And, you know, I perceive myself to be this like feminist, like woman's empowerment, like woman. And then he said a comment that was really out of line, and I choked. It was like my whole throat chakra was like, ugh. Like I feel like I don't know what to do here. Like I feel like choked, completely choked. And I just kind of laughed it off, and then I went to the bathroom and I felt sick to my stomach. I felt sick that I'd like just kind of allowed that to happen, and it felt really violating and awful. And then I went home and I actually cried about it and talked to a couple of friends about it. And then I made a decision that I was going to sleep on it, and then in the morning I was going to confront him about it. And I ended up just like really like professionally taking him aside and saying, look, man, what went down yesterday wasn't appropriate for me. like your reference to this and this and this wasn't appropriate, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't ever comment on my appearance ever again, and it was kept strictly professional. And then his response was just like, whoa, I didn't even know that was happening. Like, I'm so sorry. Absolutely. Like, I'll never do that again. And I was just like, cool. That's all. Like,
yeah,
let's just move on.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that for me was a real, like, profound moment, and actually, like, building up the courage to speak my truth, even though I was, like, so afraid from past experiences of suppression or
it's that choking sensation
Yeah.
that you're speaking of, and it's really interesting because all of those fears that we have that hold us back from, you know, quote unquote speaking our truth and, you know, in the moment and with so much ease and grace, you know, like that's the goal, but to actually do that is a completely different thing, because we do, like, we have like physical bodily sensations that can really get in the way of that. There's so much charge behind when our boundaries are crossed, and then even more charge when we don't stand up for ourselves. So I think super important to just kind of like notice that, and what you did. It's like that feeling when you went into the bathroom and you felt sick, and it's like before you've got awareness in a sense where it's like, I don't know what's not sitting right with me about this experience, but there's something about it and it feels really yuck and really icky in my body. A boundary is being crossed. And that's an opportunity for you to really understand, like, what boundary has been crossed, what is happening in this situation that is triggering you that deeply. Really, like, settle into that sensation in the body and just journal on it, because of course it's all you know, it goes way back. And the beauty of this, and the beauty of those experiences, is that, like, we can to sort of like to heal and step more into our power, in a sense where we are able and more free to be expressed in the moment with ease and grace, is when we start to heal that kind of trigger and that wound behind the not standing up, and when that's happened, when you felt violated before in your life, you know? And like, it's never perfect, and sometimes it can come out completely freaking sideways.
Yes.
You know, like when I don't know about you, but when I first started doing this, I was an absolute wreck, and I had to like tell all of my friends and family that I was like starting to try and communicate more in the moment, stand up for my boundaries a bit more.
That's beautiful,
it's super
actually.
awkward. It's like, it was awkward. It was awkward for me. It was awkward for my family, because I'm just like, something feels wrong. I don't know. Yuck. Ooh. And like not even knowing what to say.
I think that's a really valid point, what you've just mentioned, because it's like, okay, that's all good and well of like just randomly starting to speak your truth, but like, what are the practicalities of like how you go about that? Because sometimes the trauma runs so deep that you can't actually express yourself, or you go, like, you sleep on it and then you go to do that act in the morning and it doesn't work, or something's stopping you. So I think actually like having that conversation around, I'm really trying to like to honor my boundaries and to express what I'm feeling in the moment, at the moment, and this is really fucking awkward for me right now, and like I really appreciate your patience, and like I think that's a really nice way of kind of diving into it, because it's awkward for everyone to have these conversations, and that's why we avoid them our whole lives. Because you think it's easier to just avoid, because you're like, surely that will just pass by, like that's feelings just in the moment right now, that's not gonna cling on. And then it
does.
And then it just like piles and piles and piles and piles, and then it reaches this point of like explosive, like passive aggressive, like
like rants and energy that just reeks out of you, basically. And back to the like core theme of this is trust. And so this is what trust is all about. Trusting yourself is about standing up for yourself, doing what's right for yourself, and finding a way to do that you know feels good and feels right for you. And like in that moment, it was like, you know, you needed the time and space, the 24 hours to like process and like find a strategy that worked for you to approach him professionally on the side at another time. And so there's all sorts of ways that we can actually support ourselves and make ourselves feel safe when it comes to, you know, quote unquote, speaking our truth. And it's important that we do that because that is what establishes our sense of self-trust. Because when you don't have that self-trust, it just eats away and erodes at your sense of self. And that is not sexy.
It's not hot.
There is no juice in like not trusting yourself. I think like, you know, part of being a like orgasmic woman, part of living a turned on life, all of that stuff is all about living in alignment with your truth and standing up for yourself. And if you're constantly being in a lower state of worth and the like just eroding away at your sense of self, it totally affects your everything, your career, your friendships, your relationship, and your sex life. And to add to that even further on the topic of trust, what you're actually doing is you, like, by standing up for yourself in that way to that man, you've come to him with 100% honesty of what is working for you and what's not. So you're making him feel even safer because he now knows what he can and can't do with you. There's no grey area. So he trusts you more. Even if you triggered him or whatever, that you've established a deeper level of intimacy because of that radical honesty.
Yes.
And if he's, you know, not a total like douchebag, like some people like just can't engage with you like this, and that is totally fine. But, you know, it's just up to you to decide whether you want to, you know, continue on in those relationships, I guess. But, you know, radical honesty is the foundation of trust. And there's actually a book called Radical Honesty, which I read, and I just think it's like part of my core values. Radical honesty in a relationship is the foundation of deep, deep trust. And that means like saying things that are, you know, perhaps not conventional or traditional, and being honest about what you're really freaking wanting, and like being honest about your desires, and like not in a malicious, attacking way. You can love your partner so deeply, and it doesn't mean that things need to be actioned. You know, I'm talking specifically like, say you have desire for another person, or like you want to sleep in a separate bedroom to your partner one night a week, or you know, you want to go on a holiday without him for a week, or whatever it is. It's just about actually speaking about it.
Beautiful.
Because without the honesty, you'll feel trapped, you'll feel resentful, you'll feel suppressed, all of that kind of stuff. That energy will leak into the relationship. You won't trust yourself because you're not standing up for yourself. You won't trust him because you aren't able to be fully expressed in that in your relationship. And that energy is rancid.
It is not hot.
It's not
for
hot.
anyone.
It's not hot.
Just to add to that, I think also what you were saying about that kind of like manipulative energy, it's kind of coming back and tuning into where that speaking of truth, or that expression of whatever you need to get off your chest is coming from. It's like, am I trying to basically like sorry,
keep going. I had to get my phone because keep going. I've got a quote to read that's going to bring this point home.
It's like, am I trying to speak my truth to like wound them to their deepest core, or is it coming from a place of I need to express this for myself and to just like actually like move this energy in my body, and from a place of like pure integrity, and like so there's like a real difference between
and the beauty within, like, I guess a relationship where you do have that really deep sense of trust established, and you are kind of aware of your codependencies in a sense where it's like what one person's feeling is like what I'm feeling too. You know, you've got to be able to draw boundaries. And so there's that objectiveness around like, okay, my partner's coming to me with this energy, this request, this feeling, this desire. It's scary. I'm feeling this, they're feeling that. And keeping that separate in there. And, you know, like, it's hard to say don't take it personally because you're in a fucking relationship with this person. Like,
yeah.
it's like, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Like, that's impossible. Like, you are both like entities in this relationship, so it is personal, but at the same time, I think it's like just in the emotion state and in the reactive state, just like trying to stay as grounded as possible. And to really further your point, I've got a really great quote here that I think is going to drive it home for everyone. I'm going to read it straight from Instagram.
Nice.
So, what is the difference between ego and self-respect? The ego is concerned with who is right. Self-respect with what is right. And it goes on to say, this is one of the fundamental confusions we have when we observe ourselves in relationship. Is my behavior selfish, or is it something that I need to do to preserve my self-respect? Am I letting go, or am I demeaning myself? Am I giving them freedom or giving up mine? Am I giving away too much or holding back? Where is the balance? One way to look at this is to ask ourselves, am I trying to prove that I am right, or do I believe this is objectively the right thing to do? Am I being selfish or insecure, or would this be a basic requirement from any partner? One shouldn't answer these questions quickly. The first answer that comes up isn't necessarily the right one. A deeper examination is required to come to a conclusion about whether something is indeed selfish or a basic requirement for one's self-respect. Boom, there's more. I've got to finish it, guys.
Keep
but like,
going.
So good.
So good.
When I read this, I was just like, oh my fucking God.
Wow.
So for instance, trust, honesty, faithfulness, communication, sharing, intimacy, connection, and freedom are basic necessities in any close relationship. If even one of them is entirely absent or isn't improving, a relationship isn't healthy. I mean, yes, but it's hard to be as black and white as that. These are just the basic ingredients of a good relationship. Expecting them from a partner is not selfish, but necessary. For we aren't expecting it for our identity and ego, but for our basic peace of mind and security. They are necessary for the shared happiness of two people in a relationship. So expecting faithfulness from a partner is not ego, it's self-respect. And obviously that's like faithfulness can be super relevant in polyamorous dynamics. You know, we're not talking about monogamy, we're talking about faithfulness to the specific agreement that you've got within your relationship. Self-respect has a feeling of balance, correctness, peace, clarity, freedom associated with it. Ego has anger, jealousy, insecurity, fear, and confusion associated with it. I mean, hands up if you know what I'm saying.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, there's one more paragraph here. So when we violate our essential needs in a relationship, we begin to lose our dignity and self-respect. When we give in a relationship while respecting our own basic needs of receiving love, respect, and attention, we find that right balance we are looking for. A life free of attachments, yet with deep, meaningful relationships. So, yeah. I feel like we can just end the podcast now.
It's just everything.
Thanks, Instagram. I'll have to, who is that even by? I don't know.
Have you send me that?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. And for all the listeners, I don't know where I'll put it. I guess I'll tell you now. The profile's called Finding Awareness. Yeah, so you can just search for that on Instagram. Beautiful. Yeah, that really drove home for me yesterday, and I thought it was really timely for this episode because, yeah, it's really differentiating between, and you've got to be so fucking responsible for yourself. Like, it's easy to just blame and like push away everything, but it's like when we're talking about truth and honesty and like really upholding your boundaries and your personal values in a relationship, like you've got to take responsibility for like when you're like perhaps, you know, being avoidant or withdrawn from a place of ego or fear or insecurity or jealousy. Or, you know, like perhaps what does this look like? I mean, like, perhaps your partner is texting their ex because they've got a friendship and it's platonic and it's fine, and like it's not like he's not cheating on you, he's not being unfaithful, but it's making you feel insecure nonetheless. And it's just like, what is the conversation like to sort of bring that insecurity and own it? It's like, you're not blaming him, you're not asking him to stop what's happening, but you want to be expressed, you want to speak your truth, you want to be seen and witnessed and held, and you want reassurance, or you know, you want whatever that is. It's those conversations, as difficult as they are, when you can approach them from a place of, one, not needing to be right, so taking the ego out of it, taking the jealousy and the fear and comparison out of it, and then just owning from a place of self-respect. It's like, I'm feeling insecure and I'm needing, you know, some reassurance from you or something like that. Like, those kind of requests are fine and really beautiful, and it's that honesty that establishes the intimacy and the trust and the great sex and the things.
And I think often also, like, to get to that point of being able to speak that truth to them, like, I'm feeling insecure, I'm feeling a bit jealous, it's coming from a place of groundedness before you have those conversations. So often I know something's like bubbling, or I know something's brewing, I'll sit with myself and do a little medi for 10 minutes, or I'll just do some kind of like movement practice where actually I'm grounding into my body. So it's, I can like trust myself to come from a place of integrity, come from a place of just pure expression, rather than like it kind of like coming from this like heightened, like really like crazy vibrational energy where you're like, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling insecure and I'm feeling this, and you know, and then it kind of spirals into this like blaming, taming, shaming game that you are trying to avoid in the process of speaking your truth. So yeah, I think it's like it's like so easy to say, you know, and like say how to like, you know, like to use this appropriate language, but actually it's like building up that courage and like feeling grounded and safe in your body in order to have those conversations.
Yeah, totally. Really great point. So it's important to like notice when you're feeling really triggered and reactive, and not going into a conversation from that place.
Exactly.
Because when you're in that space, your prefrontal cortex is offline. You're back in your past trauma, you're in your child state, and you're not going to be able to approach the situation from in the present moment. You're going to have all of your shit coming with it. And it's really important to own that side of the street that's yours. And so, yeah, doing those basic practices, like taking the space, and again, like setting yourself up, like, and finding a way that feels safe for you to express your truth. So if this is all super new for you, you might feel like even doing that face-to-face is kind of inaccessible. Yeah. Perhaps you're in a relationship dynamic where it can get quite explosive really quickly because you're both still learning how to communicate without that, I guess, those like codependent themes, and you know, because of the taking of the things personally and the trying to be right, you know, it can get out of control really quickly. And so perhaps what you want to be doing is saying, okay, I'm going to have these conversations via text message on the phone, so that we've got space and time to read, digest, react in our own time, and then respond from a place of groundedness when we're ready.
Love that. Also, sorry, just to cut you off, but another thing, that practice that really helps me like express my truth is writing down exactly how I'm feeling in the moment. So I just go on my notes in my phone or in my journal, exactly how I'm feeling in the moment. And that can be as fucking codependent and as like ruckus and like inappropriate and like unaligned as possible.
This is not my highest self.
Like, it's just like, I'm feeling this, and like having a fucking tanty, like fuck you absolute wanker.
Yeah. This is all your fault.
Yeah, you motherfucker. And then sleeping on it. You sleep on it.
Maybe even like twice.
Yeah, you sleep on it twice.
Yeah.
And then, well, this is just a practice that works for me. And then kind of tuning back in and being like, okay, what's authentically there? What's constructive?
Yeah.
What do I need to express from a place of pure expression?
Yeah. And like, what's mine? What am I not owning? What do I need to, clear within myself?
Yeah.
Like, why is this triggering me so much? Because it's not even necessarily to say that one of you is wrong or like what you're reacting about is wrong. But I guess for the sake of like having so much more power in a relationship, if you are able to be objective and understand within yourself like why this is making you so upset, it's gonna make you feel so much more empowered in your relationship, and you're not gonna be like a victim to the circumstances, and you're not gonna be on this like emotional roller coaster in a sense. I mean, there will still be the emotional roller coasters, but you kind of you'll be able to have a better sense of self and stay grounded within your center throughout those roller coasters.
Beautiful.
And then when you fall off the roller coaster, you just get back on.
You just hop right back on.
Yeah. If you can even do that in a roller coaster. There's a like eternal like you can't die on the roller coaster, basically. They're like kids roller coasters.
Beautiful.
Like a merry-go-round.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like, radical honesty is such a big piece if you are intrigued by that, because radical honesty is not just like any type of honesty. There's an amazing book called Radical Honesty, and I recommend that you read it because it's so insightful, and it sort of goes down the same pathway that we've gone down. So it's about radical honesty with self first, because the little lies that we tell ourselves every day is just like mind-blowing in all areas of our life, and that's just life. It's fine, but having the awareness just gives you like power to take more control and like get the results that you're actually wanting in your love life, in your career, in your living situation. It's just power.
I'm gonna get that book immediately after this sesh.
Yeah, do. It's on Audible as well.
Nice.
So that's always a vibe. Is there anything else that you're feeling called to share on this topic?
Yeah, I feel like we've kind of covered it.
Yeah.
It feels good.
It feels good.
Yeah.
Feels complete.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if there's anything that's coming up for me, it's just like when you're sort of living in that in a relationship dynamic that has that vibration of like jealousy and anger and resentment and distrust. It's a really important opportunity for you to look at yourself and look where you're not honoring yourself. Where are you lying to yourself? Like, where's the insecurities coming from in you? Like there's a lot of comparison and jealousy of other women, regardless of like, whether they're just on his Instagram feed or like whether he talks to someone about what does this mean? What are you making it mean about yourself and about your relationship? Is there an opportunity for you to love yourself even more? And where are you acting out in the same way?
Oh my God, literally. This is exactly my piece right now. So that is like just so much goodness. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
For the reminder.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Welcome, honey.
God.
Cool. Okay, well, thanks so much, everybody. If you want to find me, it's at www.laura-ellen, that's ELLEN.com. And Stacey?
Stacey, this is on Insta, stacey.o.gorman. So that's stacey.o.gorman, Gorman.
Nice one.
Cool.
Yeah. Instagram's the favorite place to be.
It's the one.
My handle's the same, Laura Allen. So just, come and find us.
Find us.
And we'll be back next week with another episode.
Lots of love.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like and subscribe or share it with someone who you feel could benefit from hearing it too. My mission is to bring healthy sexuality to the mainstream, so be sure to leave your 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app, because that way this content can land in the ears of those who need it the most. If you're looking for more resources on how to live a turned-on life, check out my website at www.laura-allen.com, where you'll find events, coursework, free downloadable workbooks, as well as my coaching packages. And lastly, I want to thank you for taking the time to prioritize yourself in this exquisite way, because when we do, that's when we can really start to show up for the rest of the world. And until next time, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back with another episode soon.